All right, Paul, let's get right to it. Wait, it is Paul this week. Paul Dehner Jr. pinch hitting for Chaz, flexing on the YouTube feed. I'm glad to do this. It's going to be fun, but I have to ask first for Chaz not being. Is it the voice? Is he at a country music festival of some sort? Since we know that about him, maybe a Drake and Josh convention.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm not sure why he's not here, but something like that.
Yeah, or maybe he's just decided to go on a bender watching all the movies that we have been giving him a hard time about not knowing any lines to. And he's just like, look, I got to take this time to catch up because there's just too many important lines that I don't know. So that's how I'm going to view it. Is he's using that little time for him, a little self-improvement. But no, I'm sure it's actually real and it's all good. Maybe I just hope everything's okay. But I'm here to help because it was just too big. This weekend was too big not to dive into the Reds conversation with you. I had to hop in.
Well, no, I appreciate it. Chaz needed some me time. He spreads himself a little thin. He covers it, but he's out there a lot in a lot of different places. So that's for Chaz for this show. And so, yes, the godfather of the Growler Podcast Network sits in today on Power Stacks. And with that, we say welcome to Power Stacks because we're proud members of the Growler Podcast Network. And so, Paul, I got to do this. Like most of Reds country, I'm assuming you were in a sidecar on that roller coaster of emotion that was the weekend series at Great American Ballpark against the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, we're all nauseous from that, right? I mean, I think it's what this is. To me, there's a couple of aspects to this. The frustration of the first two games, that the results. But isn't this what you begged for
Absolutely.
years? Like you want a team that comes in playing as well as any team has played in a baseball season in a long time, winning all these games in a row, a rivalry, a team you haven't been able to beat. You have a ton on the line. You're chasing the wild card. It's August. Like, as a Reds fan, it's very easy to get frustrated and throw things hopefully soft at the television so they don't break anything when the results go the way they went on Friday and Saturday. But I had a moment where I'm just like, this is what you want as a Reds. This is what you've been begging for, to be part of it, to matter, to make plays and have moments that matter, where you look like a team that can play with truly the best this game has to offer right now. That was not lost on me before things were thrown at the television on Friday and Saturday night. But because I do think that it shows how close this team is. And you can see that, and I think a moment to enjoy it, and then certainly Sunday's result and finish off the mat certainly helped to enjoy it and see the perspective of this weekend a little better.
Here's what I said, and I think it lines up almost exactly with what you just said. I said about this weekend against Milwaukee, it was excruciating. It was emotionally draining on everyone. And I can't imagine the degree to which that amps up for the guys who were actually in the dugout, because just watching it was draining. But I agree with you 100%. You have to hope for more games like that. You have to want those situations and those types of games. Now, you have to find your way to the winning side of those moments more often than the Reds did over the weekend, to really start to climb the ladder and become a different kind of a team than they've been. But you have to want more games like that. You have to want more homestands like that, where they saw two first-place teams, and in the 6 games, you can look back now, hindsight, and pick apart those 6 games and think they could have / should have won all 6 of those games. Now, the swings in momentum influence different things game to game. I'm not getting carried away here, but the Reds facing those two teams mid-August, critical point of the season, you're exactly right. If it made you sick, good, because you cared enough to be sick, and you cared enough to watch, and you cared enough to see what happened in those two series. I had this thought as well this week about Milwaukee. There are times when the hottest team in baseball and the best team in baseball, there are certainly plenty of times when those aren't the same teams. But if you are what your record says you are, then the Reds just face not only an historically hot team in Milwaukee with a franchise record 14 consecutive wins, but also the best team in the game right now. And at any point in the 3-game series, did you feel like the gap was too great? Like it was too big of an ask for the Reds to compete and beat that team? You get right down to this. The team that played cleaner baseball won 2 of the 3 games. And that's been the buzzword for Terry Francona and his clubhouse since he started. We have to play clean baseball. I think they would be the first. Tito, everybody in there, raise your hand and say, we didn't play clean like we needed to play. And as a result, we lost 2 of those games. But they did, at least on Sunday, the Reds restored a little bit of this late season good vibe that they have, still sniffing the final wild card in the National League.
There's no question. I mean, I feel like you can see the difference. I mean, you can see that they look like they belong. That looked like a playoff series. They had the types of strengths that carry teams in the playoffs, the way they pitched at times, the way they had moments where they hit, the way they responded in a lot of big moments to stick around, to force it, to be in extra innings, like everything that was going on over the whole weekend. They showed a lot of, I think I heard Austin Hayes talk about grit afterward. They showed that they have that in them. It's just a matter of things like the errors and the walks not showing up as much. And I understand that that's truly the difference between good and great in this league. But it's like they're doing so many of the hard things well. I mean, dominant starting pitching at times, getting some big hits, like the Key Brian Hayes off the wall that gets kicked into the outfield. I mean, they're having some of these hits and some of these moments that it feels like it should be something that'll get replayed on that video board at Reds Fest in years to come. And then maybe it does or doesn't go their way, but they're having that. They're having in front of these sellout crowds, and it's just that thing. It's one inning where it's like, oh, a 4-pitch walk, or what was that error? Like a play that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the weekend and everything else that the Reds had been doing. How do you get that out? How do you keep working that out? Is that just a personality trait for this team? Maybe that's going to be the question that we have to have answered over these last, 5-6 weeks this season.
I agree, but that's the big picture view. Before we move on, I have to ask you this, just from a sports perspective. Is there a good Bengals comp for a team that has just been kryptonite the way that the Milwaukee Brewers have been for the Cincinnati Reds for years now? This wasn't about this Milwaukee team doing what it's done as much as it is that this has felt the same against the Brewers for a while, and it's not the Dodgers. You look across at Milwaukee and you think Milwaukee, Cincinnati, payroll, city, a lot of things are comparable, and yet Milwaukee has found a way to consistently, and okay, they haven't gotten the ultimate goal, and that's what it is for everybody. They haven't won the World Series in this stretch, but they consistently have playoff teams. They lose players to free agency, or they trade players, the boldness to trade players and do those things, and yet they still find a way. This might be the best team that we've seen in the last 10 years with the fewest big names on it. They have a new manager. They have a new GM within the last couple of years, yet they keep doing it, and they've been kryptonite for the Reds. Is there a comp that you can think of a team that's just in your head the way it appears Milwaukee has been for the Reds?
I don't know about in your head, but he wears number 8 and he plays for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson has only has one loss as a starter against the Bengals. It's these games where it's crazy how they seem to lose. Like we talked all weekend, on the broadcasts, whether it was radio or TV I was listening to, it was like, man, the rabbit's foot that Milwaukee has right now, every bounce and it feels like it's been the same thing for the Bengals against Lamar Jackson. It's been the 2-point conversion they can't get down. It's been the field goal hold that they can't get down to win it. It's been little things, weird things, and that they have made so many plays, but yet Lamar has always been the one that has been coming up victorious when he's been out there and just make that one extra play, have that one extra thing. That's probably the comp there in Baltimore. They're similar size, similar style to Cincinnati in terms of both have great quarterbacks and you should be able to be competing. So maybe that's the comp.
I like it.
The Brewers, I just think it's sort of, they tried to steal Derek Johnson, right? That didn't work. It's like, okay, well, we're going to take your pitching coach. All right, we'll take him, and then all the mojo's going to go away, and we've got it now. And then that didn't happen, and then that didn't happen, and now they still have the mojo. Although it's not Derek Johnson's fault, that's for sure. When you consider what this pitching staff has looked like,
right? Reds are lucky to have Derek Johnson. So I'm going to ring the bell because I've been delayed in doing that so far in the show. But let's go to the leadoff spot, and let's start there with pitching for the Cincinnati Reds, because you look back on this homestand, and I talked about being in every game across this homestand. That's exactly where the Reds were. And, 6 games in the series, you lost 1 against Philly, but in that game, you had a starter in the 8th inning who'd held that team to a single run. That was Andrew Abbott. Then what happened in Milwaukee or against Milwaukee in those games. But let's talk about pitching a little bit, because 5 of the 6 starts on this most recent homestand were great. The homestand was bookended by 2 brilliant starts from your all-star in Andrew Abbott. Brady Singer slung 6 shutout innings against the Phillies. Zach Littell, who looks more and more like a really smart pickup at the deadline, 6 innings, 1 run at the Milwaukee Brewers. And then you have the return of Hunter Green in this series. And listen, when you miss more than 2 months, which he had, I don't care who you are. There were questions about rust. There were questions about how things would look after that amount of time off. Hunter Green you have to characterize it as a triumphant return any way you look at it. 6 scoreless, 6 dominant innings against the Phillies to seal that series in the series deciding game. So the intriguing thing right now is Green is back. You added Littell. We'll find out more about Nick Lodolo this week. The Reds, you never know. You never know, but they've insisted from the start that this doesn't feel like a long-term impactful issue for Nick Lodolo. Thankfully, it's not an elbow. It's not a shoulder. It's a blister. If he can manage that and get back in, you know how he looked recently. Chase Burns, you're optimistic, but he was headed to the bullpen more than likely anyway. The one thing Terry Francona said about using Chase Burns down the stretch is, we want to use him. We're going to use him, but we're not going to yo-yo him back and forth between starting and the bullpen. That's for a guy like Nick Martinez, who's proven that he can do it. Don't put that on the kid, but you get him back, he can definitely help. And what have we said all season long? If Chaz was sitting there looking at me right now, I'd say, Chaz, if you have pitching, you have hope. The Reds have pitched. They have hope. They even scored some runs lately. But from a pitching perspective, you saw, if you see a team in a 3-game series, I mean, you can pitch, you can win said series. Where do you stand on this aspect of the 2025 Reds? Because you and I have both been around long enough to remember when just finding a competent third starter was a big topic of conversation on talk radio. Now they're deep and they're good, and it feels like they have a chance to be mostly healthy.
I mean, I don't know how you don't look at this and think about how scared an opponent would be in a 3-game series to think about the idea of facing Green, Abbott, Lodolo, or even any of the other guys. And then if you put everybody else in an all hands on deck 3-game series back there, if you have Chase Burns to be a firefighter and come in when you need strikeouts, right? I mean, I love him in that role where it's just like you're in a spot, you need Ks, bring in, well, what is he, 14.9 Ks per 9 right now or whatever it is.
Like
I mean,
that.
it's some silly number. Bring in that guy in that type of environment. It's never felt too big for him. Certainly, you can tell that in his early time here. The bigger the moment, I think you might be confident in him. If he can come out and evolve into that role a little bit more, you could have a real weapon on your hands to help what has been where we have seen the pitching falter a little bit, has been this late inning stuff with some of the bullpen guys. If you can have another thing to go to, and that whether that's Martinez, it could be Littell, maybe he's whatever that is. In that 3-game series, you are locked and loaded to win the way that it looked this weekend. That's what it's going to look like for this team if they make a run 2-1, 3-2, something like that, where they can do just enough, manufacture just enough offensively, but let pitching and defense carry them. It really amplifies what they were doing at the deadline, right? Adding the defensive help, adding the one bat in, Andujar. I mean, what a godsend he's proven to be,
Right.
but that can give you the one swing, that can help you against the lefty, the defensive key Brian Hayes, the length that you get out of Littell helping you across whatever spot you need those innings from as a starter or whatever. I mean, you really feel what their path was as you watch them go forward here right now. That's what it looks like, because that's what wins. And I think that's Tito saying, this is what wins in the postseason. This is how you win games in the postseason against teams like Milwaukee. And I think you saw that this weekend. It's just a matter of the rest of that cleanliness, shall we say, showing up like it did today. I thought.
They have to be. Key Brian Hayes has already that move has already paid off. Littell has already paid off, and Duhar has already paid off. Those are good things, and I think the lapses defensively. First off, Noelvi Marte in right field. I said this before. You can, because of the way he's hitting, the last month. And I made a note on Sunday at the ballpark. I actually wrote in my notes, it's starting to feel like you want Noelvi Marte at the plate in a big situation, and not just Spencer Steer, not just Ellie De La Cruz. You want Noelvi Marte up so you can live with the inexperience in the outfield. This is something that he clearly has to be better and coached in the offseason and next spring if he's going to stay in right field, which it certainly feels that way right now. But I feel like the defensive miscues in the Milwaukee series, I think that was more a result of this Milwaukee thing than it was someone just in a big moment, in a big game, not being the defender that they need to be. I just think that was part of that whole Milwaukee vibe. But you're going to start stealing outs with Key Brian Hayes instead of giving them away. Jose Trevino steals outs from the other team, as he did on Sunday against Milwaukee. So I think pitching and defense, somebody might watch the Milwaukee series and chuckle when we say that, given how things went with walks and errors. I agree with you. I think they're going to win games down the stretch with pitching and defense. But offensively, just to look at where they are, they finished the homestand, but those 6 games plus a couple of more, they had won 5 of the last 8. And in those games, 5 wins, 3 losses, they averaged almost 6 runs a game. Now, that includes 14 in the final game of the Pittsburgh series against the Pirates. I get it. But they had 8 in a couple of games. They minimized the 1-run game or being shut out. And so I felt like offensively, Andujar has been a big part of that. Marte coming around has been a big part of that. You're going to look at that and feel better about that. But I keep coming back to what makes this team different is pitching, specifically the rotation. But even the back end of the bullpen hadn't hiccuped like that in a while, the way that it did just in the Milwaukee series. And so I don't hate that, but I do look at the appearances for Tony Santillan. I worry about that because that's a lot. He's a workhorse, but that's a lot. Andrew Abbott has had the same questions. He addressed that. He made that the focal point of his offseason of still being strong and good late in the season because that had bitten him before. But these are young players doing some of these things for the first time, and so you're going to have some of those things. But I feel okay about that. And offensively, I'm still curious to see what happens with this team offensively, but they have scored some runs. And you look at the lineup right now, Paul, it feels a little bit better, in some areas a lot better than it did a couple of weeks ago.
Man, Marte's been such a big difference in that. I mean, you think about where the discussion around him was at the beginning of the season. I mean, and now, I mean, he's such a core key piece, and he really, of everyone in the biggest moments, has had a little juice to him. You know, I mean, he really has. It's not. There's been zero shrinking in those spots. You said it. I mean, I feel like the confidence that you have in him, you feel that outside of Spencer Steer right now, maybe more than anybody. And him coming through that way has countered any of the issues you would have with him in right field for right now. And he has made some plays out there. I mean, I was there when he gunned the guy down from right field the other night with the perfect throw. You see that. Right. I mean, that's a big defensive play there. Some of the running catches that he's made up against the wall. And sure, you're going to have some where he misplays trying to go down to the corner. And you do have some of that. But what he's offering everywhere else and giving a little more juice to this lineup to make it feel so much longer is been so needed. Where you're in so many of these 2-1 games and 3-2 games, and that's what you're going to look like in these big spots and in the playoffs. You just need one swing of the bat. You need one double. You need one key hit, and he's been the guy that's felt like he can provide that right now. And they need it.
All right, let's do this right now. It's time for the Reds milestone moment of the week, and we're going to select number 44, Elly De La Cruz. Just collected his 153rd career extra base hit in the series over the weekend against Milwaukee. Moves him up the list to the second most extra base hits by a Reds batter through his first 3 career big league seasons since 1900, trailing only Frank Robinson, who in his first 3 seasons, 56 to 58, put up 196 extra base hits. And the number for Elly De La Cruz right now, he's in the 150s. So think about, as amazing as De La Cruz has been to start his career with extra base hits and how the speed plays. Let's take a moment, shall we, to soak up and appreciate what Frank Robinson in his first few years in the big leagues was like to amass 40-ish more extra base hits than Elly De La Cruz his first 3 seasons. Can you imagine?
He's pretty good.
Yeah,
he's pretty good back in the day. I mean, it's so fun watching Elly right now. I mean, yeah. I know the people are wondering, like, when's he going to hit a home run again and the power thing. But man, every night you come away talking about something with him. Like, and it's you, and it's good. Like 80% of the time, it's good. Occasionally you have some of the other stuff that he's still a young player, but every night it's like you just come away walking out of the ballpark talking about 44. And I just think that's just part of the draw. It's so fun to know that you're going to go and see that every night and watch the guy play. And it seems like it's something different half the time.
Right. And tip of the cap to the late great Hall of Famer, Frank Robinson. This week's Reds milestone moment, Paul, is brought to you by Glenville Ave, the baby blanket designed by parents who wanted something better. This kind of feels like a gift-giving season when you think about babies and you think about baby showers and your friends having kids or grandkids, well, this is where this enters the conversation, because these blankets are like milestones of their own, because they capture your baby's growth and achievements. And the best part about it is they're just better than other baby blankets or baby gifts. They're softer, they're safer, they're hypoallergenic, because, your friends' kids, your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, they all deserve the best. This blanket is larger, it's built to last, and Glenville Ave is a proud supporter and member of the Power Stacks community. They're not just selling baby blankets, they're creating keepsakes, the kind that families hold on to long after those baby photos find their way to the bottom of the shelf or the bottom of the drawer. You're still going to have these blankets. So what you need to do is you need to see it. Go to the website, GlenvilleAveLLC.com, GlenvilleAveLLC.com. Use the promo code STACKS to show that this is where you heard about Glenville Ave, and you'll get 10% off your first order. And we appreciate their support. And Paul, I know you would agree with me that we appreciate those in the Power Stacks community that support those who support what we do here.
No question. Everybody that supports us is a big deal. It allows us to keep doing these shows, to keep doing bigger, better things. And so we appreciate that. I really appreciate Glenville, though, because when my kids were in their first months, we really felt with my first kid, we really wanted to have something every month. Okay. And so we did a balloon. First month was 1 balloon. Second month was 2 balloons, pretty big balloons, the ones you get at like Kroger or whatever. We really weren't thinking ahead enough about how hard 12 balloons was going to be. And so it was always, I dreaded it every month of like, oh no, I've got to go get 10 balloons and try to carry them through Kroger, somehow get them all into my car without losing any, get out of the parking lot without hitting someone because I can't see anywhere. So with my second daughter, Rose, we went with roses. It was much easier, but then I had thorns, had thorn issues, dealing with that with the roses. And so I'm looking at Glenville and I'm like, this is what I needed. I needed the big blanket that I could just, it would have been so much easier and an actual keepsake. So I think about them every time about, man, I really wish I would have been on the Glenville train back when I had my kids in their first year.
It's never too late. Solves a problem, great gift, and we appreciate their support. And if you have a business, if you're listening right now, you have a business, you'd like to partner with us, we can do something cool. We can customize it to your business. We'll get the word out to the Power Stacks community. Go to powerstackspod@gmail.com and reach out and contact us there. Time now for Tito's Take. And we want to get inside the manager's office right now, because Sunday morning, before the Reds won that final game of the series against Milwaukee, Sunday morning, there was a moment in the Reds clubhouse where Jake Fraley was on his way out. And if you've been in locker rooms, clubhouses, these are never comfortable moments, because teammates, no matter the sport, they always use the phrase, we spend more time with these guys than we do with our families. And that's how it feels. And so there was a little bit of the Reds had just lost consecutive games in gut punch fashion. Now someone is leaving the group who's been a big part of the group for a while now, and that was Jake Fraley. So we get into Terry Francona's office for the pregame availability, and that's obviously topic number one. And I wanted to, because I think a lot of people had questions about this, and it just kind of felt like it left some people wondering why. And so I wanted to offer as much as we could of Terry Francona and his explanation as he talked to us about this decision, how it came about, and how it affected the team and Jake Fraley. So let's go ahead and hit that right now. Here's Tito on the Reds DFAing Jake Fraley on Sunday.
Conversations, and there's some that are kind of private and some that I can't explain, but just came to the idea that kind of giving Jake a chance to go play where maybe he thinks he deserves to play, which I understand is maybe better than him sitting the bench here.
Did the knee come out okay?
Oh yeah, we certainly would not do,
How tough is that with a guy like that everybody likes and respects? We all know the business.
I don't really think there's ever an easy one, regardless of how guys are, because you're making decisions that alter their life, and it's a big deal, and we take it that way. They're not that I needed an excuse to lose sleep last night, but you do, because you think about it, the whole time. And I think the day when I stop thinking about it, I'll retire.
But it sounds like that decision had been maybe coming into focus, obviously, before last night after the game.
Well, there's some conversations, like, with age and stuff that are probably not for this room, but they happen.
But they happened. So the backstory is Jake Fraley, one, had seen his playing time greatly reduced recently. Noelvi Marte moving to right field, needing that position to get Marte's bat in the lineup had changed things some. Jake Fraley also had publicly discussed the fact that he's dealing with a pretty serious shoulder injury that he's had more than just this season. And so his playing time was down. No one's happy about that. If you're a player, if you're a competitor, you're not happy. Fraley wasn't happy about that. So without going into all the details and the quote conversations that I can't share here that Terry Francona talked about, I think you can safely feel out the situation that you had a player who wanted to play more, wasn't getting playing time, and probably it came to a head that maybe this is better for you, maybe this is better for the team as well, that we go ahead and do this late in the season. Jake Fraley has a chance to catch on somewhere else. And he's certainly been, a good soldier and a good player for the Reds. And I think Terry Francona, I think it came through very clearly that you wish Jake Fraley nothing but the best, but things happen, tough decisions get made. But I don't think if anyone wanted to characterize it just as, the Reds just decided to cut ties with Jake Fraley, I think there's more to the story than that based on how Fraley felt and how he felt maybe his playing time could have been more than it was, and maybe it might be somewhere else. So that's kind of how I sensed how that story went down.
It's always really hard because, and you see this in all sports, where you have somebody where the question becomes the value on the field versus off the field in the clubhouse versus what they're bringing. And because there's value in both and there's importance in both. And at a certain point, it becomes untenable and the whether off the field doesn't matter if just so many things in the Tetris. I mean, baseball, it always cracks me up. Every day there's a new roster move or two or three when you open up the inbox. And it's like the Tetris match that the year becomes. Things happen, and when that outweighs everything else, it doesn't matter how strong the pull is of how important you have been to chemistry, how important you've been in the clubhouse. At a certain point, like it becomes a thing that you can't keep going in there. And I think that just feels like what this is, not being as inside as you are. It's like you hang on as long as you can,
right.
And at a certain point, you've got to come to terms and say, the divorce is the best thing here.
Yeah. So Will Benson is up, another left-handed bat, outfielder, can play multiple outfield positions as Fraley could too. But Will Benson is the replacement. He's back up, and you got Noelvi Marte kind of camped out in right field right now. Before we talk about the trip for the Reds, I want to talk about another trip, and I want to paint kind of as much as I can, a word picture here for you, Paul. Okay, this is not too deep because I'm not a very deep guy, but I'm thinking right now as someone is listening to this show. They're driving down south. They're in the car. They're headed south. They're getting into some of the southern states. And the highway is maybe, as you pass each exit, it's dotted with barbecue joints and places you can get sweet tea. Those kinds of places. And I say that because over the weekend at Great American Ballpark, as has been the case recently, people come up to me at the Reds Live pre- and post-game set, and they say, "Hey, BG, power stacks," and they nod. And I go, "Hey, Spread the word. We're trying.
Yeah.
Keep it out there. We're trying. Well, over the weekend with Milwaukee, somebody came up to the set, pointed and said, "Hey, Geese, Power Stacks, best Reds podcast out there." I said, "Hey, man, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for listening." I said, he goes, "I'm from Alabama." He goes, "I'm listening to Power Stacks in Alabama." I said, "You just up here for a few games?" He said, "Yeah, I come up to about 10 games a year. And when I drive back home to Alabama, I'm listening to Power Stacks." And so somewhere out there right now, Wayne and Janine from Alabama are checking this out. Maybe this is a surprise to them that they get mentioned on the podcast. But we appreciate that kind of support. We appreciate folks coming out and letting us know. And so I just felt like, man, it's a good thing to say. That kind of made my day when Wayne from Alabama came up and said how much he likes Power Stacks. And so I hope he's enjoying this episode. He and his wife, Janine, and we'll see you back at Great American Ballpark sometime soon.
Shout out to Wayne and Janine. You know, it's funny. We can see all the numbers on who listens, where they listen from, and everything. And we're in all 50 states now. We have them all.
Bam.
Bam. But there was a moment. The last ones in the pool were the Dakotas. And I'm like, come on, Dakotas. There's Reds fans. I have one of my best friends lives in North Dakota. I was immediately on the horn, and
Absolutely.
I said, "How are you not listening to Power Stacks? You're a Reds fan. You got to know. Hey, all right, you're busy with your quote unquote life. Okay, we need Dakotas." So he's like, "Don't worry, got it covered." And now both Dakotas box checked off. So we're in all 50 now.
Man, I like to hear that. Power Stacks community, man. They're out there.
They're out there.
They're listening.
Stackers. Did we go with names yet? Stackers. Is that word?
That's something we haven't gotten to yet, but I like where you're headed with that. I do like stackers.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But yeah, listen, and as the Reds do their best to stay in the conversation here, August and September, this show, I have a feeling that this show's going to be. We're going to continue to have talking points, I think, that hit a nerve because people are passionate about the Reds, and we'll see where it goes. But they get out of town with a win on Sunday against Milwaukee. But, Paul, here comes another test. They're going to head on the road now for 9 games, 10 days, and they're heading out west. And immediately you can go, okay, some of those West Coast trips have been tough on this team historically. We'll see how this team responds. It starts with the Angels, a sub-500 team, but they did just sweep the Dodgers. They got a guy named Mike Trout, so there's that going on. Then they'll go back after an off day to Arizona, a team that sold at the deadline, sold our good friend Gino Suarez back to Seattle. But until this weekend, they'd been winning a lot more than they'd been losing. They had kind of snuck back up on some people. So you got Arizona. And then you head right back to Southern California to see the Dodgers, who are neck and neck with the Padres right now in the National League West with their fat payroll and all their players. That's what the Reds have in the next week and a half. What do you think?
You know what's funny is we do this with the schedule where we're always like, oh, but that team's not very good, or that team sold, or the Dodgers should be good. You know what I've started doing with those conversations? I pick them up and I ball them up and I throw them away in the garbage because it never matters with this team. This team can lose, games to really bad teams and then go out the next 3 games and look like dynamite against a first place club. It's been their nature all year. It's kind of part of their personality of who they are. And so I don't even care. It doesn't matter who they're playing anymore. I think they're good enough to sweep anybody. And obviously they can't be swept. They're unsweepable.
Done.
And so I don't look at who they're playing, whether it be the Dodgers or whether it be the Angels. I view them both the same way. They need wins. They need wins. We're recording this on Sunday night as the Mets are just getting started. One of my favorite things when you're finally back into watching pennant baseball is when you find out the other team you need to be tracking on the score and you're checking their scores. You get those alerts now. You switch that over on your phone. Now I'm getting Mets alerts, right? To check their free fall.
Yep.
And so That's all that matters. They need wins. I don't care who it's against. I'm not going to discredit or give more credit to whoever it is by how good or bad they are. We know they can play with anybody. We know they can lose to anybody. They've proven both of those this whole year. It's just go to the West Coast, have a winning road trip, come back, and when you come back, hopefully you are the 6th wild card spot.
And since you brought up, and I agree with you about watching, scoreboard watching, and when they come back, the homestand that they have when they come back includes a weekend 3-game set against the New York Mets.
There you go.
To circle back where we started and tie all of this together, as excruciating and draining and maddening at times as this 6-game homestand against the first place Phillies and the first place Milwaukee Brewers, the world leaders, Milwaukee Brewers, you want more games like that. You want that. What movie is it? Or who was it? Was it Kirk Cousins? You want that.
Yeah.
The Reds want that.
You like that?
You like that. If you're the Reds, if you're in Reds country, you like that. You want more games like that. And if they have a good road trip, you're going to get some of those back at Great American Ballpark, and Power Stacks is going to be there the entire way.
I got one for you. I got one for you.
Oh, sure.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Let's go. A few good men. I can always drop those in, and there was not a chance in hell Chaz was getting that one.
1,000% is what I was about to say. So pinch hitting for Chaz, who's at the Drake and Josh fan club convention or something like that, or watching movies. Paul, you knocked it out of the park. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Talk to you later, BG.
Yep, that's Power Stacks. Enjoy this next few days of the Reds on the West Coast, and we'll be back soon. Tell somebody about the show. Watch it on YouTube. Find it wherever you find your podcast, and we'll do it again next time. Thanks.